Do your thing.
Fork around. Do I? We have hit record. Hello. Welcome to What the Fork? Ladies, you forget. You have things to say. What the forks?
What the forks?
Twilight. What the forks?
We are rusty. It has been a minute since we dove back into this podcast. We have been promising this episode for like a year and maybe more. So I just want to say so sorry. Also, thank you to all of our loyal listeners, because I still see that you guys are listening to this podcast over and over, and that like warms my heart, because that means like we've touched you in an appropriate way, and and like you like what we talk about and you like what we're doing, and we've been promising to talk about our trip to Forks, which we did, and also fun news, bringing back the book podcast in general, which we have actually scheduled the first book.
Ooh.
Which will be exciting. So that's coming. So just some quick, hello, what have you been up to? Who am I always with? This is Sarah, in case you forgot what my voice sounds like. Ladies.
I'm Jordan.
And I'm Kiki.
Yes, as always. So there's been this like rumor going around before we dive into Forks about like Stephenie Meyer releasing 2 new books again. And I'm sitting over here like, we knew this. We talked about this already. We've made lists and videos of books we'd rather have. So I'm just like, why is this going around again?
I have no idea, but to be honest, I am not excited unless I know it's something we asked for.
I don't think it's going to be anything that we asked for. We did not ask for this.
We did not ask for this.
I didn't ask for this.
We asked for Midnight Sun because we knew that existed. And I just want a Carlisle book. That's my number one ask.
Right? Like these are things that I asked for, and I know we're not getting them. I want a Carlisle book. I want a whole Rosalie book. I want, honestly, any of the Cullen family's backstories because they're fascinating.
I mean, I'd like to know who Esme was.
Right?
Right. We know nothing. Literally nothing.
We literally know nothing about Esme. She could go from the ground up and make this amazing story. Okay?
Exactly.
The people who came to help, the Irish clan, the Egyptians. Give me a story about the Volturi back in the day and how crazy they were.
Exactly. Give me the Fantastic Beasts version of people who know about magical secret powers and things, you know? Give me the Volturi story.
Exactly. Because weren't they like out here talking about they had like a Rolodex of powers from people? And I'm like, you have this. I'd like to see it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Stephenie Meyer, if you happen to be one of our listeners,
Twilight New Mutant, please.
Twilight New Mutant. That's really good. That's really good. That's like the Twilight news. I just had to share that because I'm like, what is going on? This is weird. And Jordan, you and I will be redoing your video for TikTok.
Oh yeah.
Updates. More fun things are coming because we cast the Cullens. We gotta like do some fun stuff. Twilight
also to be that guy. She also promised us a sequel to The Host, and that was like 15 years ago.
Didn't she come out and say, I'm not doing that anymore? She's like, I'm done. Goodbye.
Well, yeah, because the movie bombed.
So she's like, we're good. I'm good with this world. We're not going to go back. Let's go to the popular one and make it happen. So let us dive in to Forks, because we had this great idea to do a long ladies weekend to go to Forks in Seattle in December, because that's when my birthday is. So I think we had such an amazing trip. Overall, I think it was great.
I think
go ahead.
I think it was a good trip. I think we weathered the weather very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think Forks left a lot to be to not be spoken about.
So I think that we did it right. And I'm glad that the three of us get along and travel well together. And we have a very similar like travel ethos where like we'll get up, we'll do something in the morning, we'll go back to the room, take a nap, then we'll go out again at night. Like I don't like people who want to try like back to back to back to back activities and excursions. I'm on vacation. I need to rest, y'all. That's the point of being on vacation. So I'm glad we did that. And I think that Kiki discovered an important vacation hack in our current digital media landscape. Go on TikTok and research the city you're going to, because you will find things that you never knew existed. I've been to Seattle before, and at least 2 of the restaurants and activities we did, I didn't know about. And Kiki found TikToks, so I'm like, we should go here. And we did, and it was great.
Yes.
Yes. There's still, I don't know if anybody is planning a trip to Seattle anytime soon, but they have hot tub boats that you can drink in and go out on the water and all this craziness. And of course, you know, we didn't plan that deep.
No.
Because we knew what we were doing. We were going to Forks. But I'm just saying that was like something that we need to definitely go back and do.
Right. We talk about this all the time, that we're going back to Seattle for the hot tub boat.
100%. But as Kiki said, that wasn't what this trip was about. Seattle was like the extra perk to the going to like Forks and Port Angeles. And I think
I think we need to warn people that if they are traveling to Forks and Port Angeles, that's kind of how you kind of have to do it to get the best value, is that you go to Seattle, you drive to Port Angeles, probably stay in Port Angeles for a night, then go to Forks, because Forks is a day trip, y'all. Then go back to Port Angeles and then fly home from Seattle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's basically what we did. And I feel like, because I, post a little bit about our trip on TikTok. So if you found us through our TikTok, hello and welcome. So basically for us, how you get there is you have to like rent a car. There's no Ubers. Don't take an Uber over there. And you take the water ferry, which I love that this was like the first time both of you had ever been on a ferry with a car.
I'm from California. We don't do that here.
Why would I need to get on a boat with a car? That makes no sense.
I just loved it. I was like, they're so excited. And they're like, oh, back to sleep. Because we left real early. Find a spot to stay in the Port Angeles area. Like that whole, if you're really outdoorsy, it could be definitely more than a day trip. You could hike the national park that's there. Like, but that's not who we are. That's
which the name is Ho.
You're not wrong.
And it's called
the Ho Rainforest.
Yeah, the Ho Rainforest.
The Ho Rainforest is beautiful though. And I will say, like, I would love to rent a cabin and stay there for a couple of days because it's absolutely gorgeous. Just driving through it was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
There's like spay traps galore. Like it's stunning.
Mm-hmm. It's absolutely gorgeous. And like you drive through all these little water towns, and I call them water towns because they're not quite beach towns. They're like all a little like tiny houses along the way. There are Starbucks because we did hit a Starbucks along the way to Port Angeles. And it takes a little over 3 hours to get there from Seattle. And we did the thing. We stayed in Port Angeles. I want to say we stayed, what was it, like the Red Lion Inn?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was on the water. It was beautiful. And we even hit up Bella Italia. Now, one thing that people kept commenting on the TikTok is like, nothing was filmed there. Nothing's filmed there. Like, well, yeah, that's not the reason we went. We didn't go to see all these filming locations. We went to go see the area that inspired the book. Because until you do, you don't really understand. Because Forks is not Portland.
No.
They
not at all whatsoever.
Honestly, it left me with questions about the book because by nobody knowing, like by us not knowing where Forks was, right? And then them filming it in Portland, you get the feeling that this is like a city. And then when you get to actually Forks, it is a one-street town, y'all. It is the smallest town I've ever been in my life. And even when we were in Port Angeles, and I'm like, what mall did they go through? Because we've driven through all of Port Angeles. I don't see a mall here. Where did they buy those prom dresses?
Right?
Like, I know. It had to be like a vintage store. I mean, come on. Yeah, maybe the one dress shop orders in like samples of prom dresses. Like it had to be.
And everything in Port Angeles, like store-wise, closed at 5. Like if you did not go shopping, you did not go look, everything closed at 5. Most restaurants closed by 7. We were lucky that, Bella Italia stayed open a little later because we didn't know what time we were going to get back. So definitely when you go, look at the times for things that you want to do because it is going to close a lot earlier than you think. This is a very tiny, like fishing town, logging town. That
I will say though, shout out to Port Angeles and their combination KFC Taco Bell.
Yes, they came in clutch for us. More than through.
Wait, didn't we go to Baskin Robbins too?
Yes,
we tried to, and the Baskin Robbins was already closed. It was too late.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and it was only like 8:30. It wasn't late.
I know, but that really proved, we are city people. I mean, me and Jordan, we all grew up in the suburbs. In the suburbs, stuff does close early, for sure. I know that growing up in OC, my McDonald's closed at like 9:30. So, that was early. It's 24 hours out in LA. But living this lifestyle, it was really hard to be somewhere and be like, I have to get everything done while the sun is up, which, by the way, is only in the winter for like 5 hours. And
it's so short. The sun starts setting at like 3 p.m.
Yeah, it was dark fast. It was crazy. And we were in bed, like, because we got there the night before we went to Forks, and we were in bed by 9. And we're like, there's nothing to do. We have nowhere to go.
Which, again, shout out to MTV, because while we were staying on our trip, MTV was doing a Twilight marathon. So, of course, we watched Twilight in the hotel room.
Breaking Dawn Part 2.
I know. That was a complete strike of luck that we were able to just watch Twilight on TV. We did not have to plan, bring it, or anything.
No, and we got to Mystery Science Theater because we've seen it so many times.
Exactly.
I made one of the best jokes I think I've ever made when Edward looks at Bella right after the wedding, and I was like, I feel like fucking something.
Oh, it was a good time. It was so fun. I think, also to your point that you were making earlier, Jordan, the way the books describe everything, I was expecting it to be suburban, but Port Angeles is described as the city. So I think I was expecting more of like a Seattle vibe versus just another small town.
Yep.
But compared to Forks, which is literally like
a one stoplight town.
I could see how Port Angeles is the city.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But that's just not me coming in. That's not what I was expecting.
No, I grew up in the suburbs of LA, so I'm thinking a city is Los Angeles.
Right. I mean, even my small town in Virginia was bigger than Port Angeles. So that's what's so crazy to me. And I'm like, we had a late night IHOP. Anyway. So our next day, we got up pretty early and we started the drive to Forks. And of course, the whole time we're just like playing out the movie because, like Edward driving back and so angry. And those roads, while beautiful, were very small and terrifying.
Yes.
So I understand why Bella was freaking out about him flying on these 2-lane tiny roads on these windy mountains.
Yeah, no, ma'am. No, thank you. Super scary, super tiny, pretty windy.
And of course, it's December. We were there, so it was raining basically nonstop.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I have beautiful footage of like rain hitting the water that I was taking through the window of the car. But my God, terrifying.
And like also on the side of the road, like random waterfalls would happen.
Yes.
I was like, waterfall. And you guys are like, what? I'm like, hold on, it's going to happen again. And then it just kept being like a waterfall, another waterfall. And I'm like, so it's beautiful. And I'm trying to drive and I'm trying to take in like the majesty that I'm going through. And also I don't want to drive back in the dark because there's no light. There's no
street lights. There was no nothing.
No. But it was beautiful. You're literally driving through the outskirts of a rainforest. And I don't know, like she describes everything to be wet and rainy and blah, blah, blah. And I know it does get warmer and sunnier in the summer. But the rain did stop every once in a while. But once we got to Forks, like we got to the sign that said, welcome to Forks, it was like a wall of rain. You know, it was almost like that was the border. I thought it was so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It also started to make sense why they filmed so much in Portland, not just because like Portland's prettier, but because it's so wet up there. The poor cameramen, there's no way. There's no way.
Not a way in the world. Like it rains. Like there's moss on the roads. Like that's how crazy it rains, you know?
Even if it's not raining, there's still just like mist in the air.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like not humidity, mist.
Yeah, it's like walking in a cloud.
Yeah.
Beautiful, stunning. Absolutely. Like we cannot discount this. Go to the TikTok, look at some of our footage. It is very, very, very beautiful. But if you are not a rain person, no, don't do it.
So I don't like even cold and wet. I get it.
We woke up super early. We got to Forks. We got to Forks so early that none of the Twilight stuff was open. And I will say that's
like the welcome area.
That's like the cool thing I think about the city of Forks is that they know what their claim to fame is, and they lean into it, and they're very friendly. Like everything has Twilight something in the window. There were little thrift shops that had like Twilight books in the windows. They have the museum. They have the welcome center. Like they know why you're visiting.
100%. And we even drove by the hardware store that Bella and Mike work. And it's like named the same thing. So I was like, oh, that's that. That's so cool. And when you go to the Welcome Center, I thought the Welcome Center was like way better than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the two cars. You've got Bella's book car or truck rather. And then like the movie truck. Like, and I was like, that's like why you would ever differentiate. I don't understand. But also thank you.
Yeah. Super cute. Super fun taking pictures of both.
Yeah. I thought that was awesome.
And the woman at the Welcome Center is so nice. She knows why you're there. They have maps that they already give you that tells you where all the different locations you can visit are, where the museum is. They have all this different Twilight memorabilia in there. Some of it's for sale. They've got a huge like map of the world, and they let you put in a push pin from where you're from. And it's like, it is covered in pins. People from all over the world are visiting Forks. It's outrageous.
Yeah. I mean, like people from Lithuania, like it's people from outside of the world. Like I was surprised and shocked at how many people made this adventurous trek because it's not an easy place to get to. You know, it's not like you hop on a plane and hop off and you're there. Like it's a book that takes place in New York or something. Like Forks is pretty out there.
It's a destination. Like you have to choose to go there. You're not going to just randomly accidentally drive through.
Yeah. It's not going to be somewhere on the way to somewhere, you know. You could easily get to Portland or any other major city not driving through Forks. It's not a necessary route. Which is why, you know, we took that awesome ferry and we have to
we made a whole weekend out of it because you have to.
You have to. And it wasn't that expensive either, which I thought was really great. Like, especially like staying overnight and stuff.
Oh, yeah. In terms of trips that we've taken, it was very affordable.
Yeah. I was surprised. It was great. Like, could you imagine if you were from Forks and all of a sudden this book comes out and then all of a sudden no one lives in comes to your little logging town and all of a sudden now everyone around the world is coming to your town?
I would be overwhelmed. There's no way I'd be able to deal with that.
I mean, as someone who grew up in a touristy place, I get it. It sucks sometimes because you actually do make a lot of friends who like you'll meet someone really cool outside the house and then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, and I'm from here. And you're like, oh, well, never mind.
Well, I think
we're going to be besties, but
I just feel like the transition is what would like freak me out. Like if I lived in Forks pre-Twilight and was minding my business in my tiny little town, and then Twilight happened and boom, I feel like that would be a difficult pill to swallow.
Exactly. It's different growing up in a place that's already touristy than living in a place before it is and then it becomes. So
absolutely, for sure.
I would understand if the people were rude. Like I don't think and correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't actually go into the gas station to use the restroom, that while the people who worked in the Twilight places were lovely, the locals there was a few flags and signs
There were some flags and some signs that made me say, let's get out of Forks before we go to lunch. Let's just have lunch when we're back in the city. There were some signs and some flags that made me a little nervous. Definitely employed the buddy system when we had to get out of the car to go to the gas station.
Yes. And in case you only listen to us and you have never seen us, more than half of this podcast are Black women. So yes. It is definitely...
Sarah, I am the token white lady, and I'm okay with that.
That being said, not only do we read Twilight, we watch a lot of horror movies. So when Kiki said, can we go to this bathroom? I said, not alone. That's a we thing. Both of us are getting out the car and going.
But the gas station sold dino chicken nuggets.
And bags of candy. You could just like buy a bag. You bought like a paper bag and then you got to fill it up with candy.
Yeah.
They don't have that in LA.
They sure don't. And that was fun.
Let's talk about the Twilight Museum, because it's this tiny little room that I was so impressed with. And the woman who runs it, and I wish I remember her name, was so nice. But also a tip on the Twilight Museum, it's not open every day. And we got lucky because we did not look that up until the night before to see what time it opened.
Yeah.
Yes. So make sure you plan that, because it's not open every day. It does have very particular hours. And the cool thing is the woman was so nice, but she said that she often changes out the displays. So you can visit more than once if you want to. But it was so cool. They had the books printed in a bunch of different languages and different versions of the books, like the manga adaptation and like different things like that. Tons of costumes from the movie. And my favorite thing, Chuck Esme was there.
Oh, man. Jump scare, Chuck Esme.
Do you know that I took so many photos of Chuck Esme that on the iPhone, how it has people albums?
Stop it.
My iPhone recognizes Chuck Esme as a person.
Oh my God.
Wow. That's a lot of pictures.
Wow. To be fair, though, Chuck Esme is fascinating because they also were playing the behind the scenes video above it. And I think I've posted like a couple little videos that include our Chuck Esme. And so like you learn the story of why they didn't use it, because it is a nightmare.
It's absolute nightmare fuel in person too. Like that thing, right. It should be next to Annabelle. Like it's got weird freckles. Like
if you think the CGI baby is bad, you need to see Chuck Esme, and then you'll realize they were doing their best.
They did. I did my best. Yeah. I love this little tidbit that she gave us. When you look at all of the costumes, if they're in like a silver mannequin or on a silver mannequin, those are the vampires. If they're on a normal mannequin, those are humans. So like you'll see Bella's outfits, and then when she changes, her mannequin changes. So I thought that was really cute too. Like little touches like that.
Mm-hmm. I think my favorite costume they had on display was they have the suit and the dress from Bella's Nightmare. In Breaking Dawn.
Yes, the Nightmare Wedding. It's so good. And it's like in this amazing display with like an arch over it. And they also someone had a Twilight wedding and had everything replicated from the movie. So while the museum didn't have the original stuff from the movie, they had this wedding from this couple, and they had her dress and her shoes and the wooden benches and stuff. And I thought that was one crazy because someone did that. I couldn't even imagine how expensive that was, and hopefully beautiful, but also very cool because then they have a piece of replication history in a way.
Mm-hmm.
They also had, I forget how she explained it to us, but they have like this big cardboard wolf that's like the size of what Jacob was supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think it was like his stand-in basically because you couldn't like stand in so it wasn't on like a tennis ball like they do a lot of times. So instead, so that you would know the spacing of him because he's supposed to be around them, they use this like cutout of a wolf with a J on it. So I'm assuming like Sam's is an S, and like they had like letters for everyone, and I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, and it's just this big like plexi foamy board wolf, which. In scale, when you're standing next to it, you get like, oh, these definitely were not like regular wolves. Like
he's big. He's a big boy.
Wolves. These were big wolves, you know. These were skinwalkers for sure.
I believe you just said that. Those were skinwalkers for sure.
Y'all cursed.
It's a good movie. I like that movie. Maybe I'll ask Christina Ricci about that movie because I'm doing Paley Fest. Like, ma'am, it's a good one. Oh, and they had tons of signs, like the Spartan sign, and a whole area like dedicated to the Quillette tribe. And the museum is free. And I feel like people don't realize that the museum is free, because we didn't realize that. We were ready to drop some cash. We're like, how much is it to get in here? And it's really run by a woman who just loves the series, loves the movies. And I believe they even run the festival that happens every year.
They do. Yeah. She said they run the festival that happens every year. She said that the majority of the things they have on display are donation based, like fans just continue to help the museum and help it grow. And so they find all these things and donate them so other fans can experience it.
Yeah. And that the space is like, well, started off even smaller and is constantly growing. You know, they're trying to make sure they can keep as many things out for fans and people all around as they can.
Exactly. And it's just this one room. And so she has to, pace people and how many she can bring in, but you don't have a time limit. You can stay in as long as you want. You can take as much video and photos as you want. And I kind of love that. It wasn't like a 30-minute limit. She was just like, nah, have a good time. I know why you're here. I know why you want to be here. Do what you got to do. All
she did was ask that we tag her, and then she said she'd listen to the podcast.
Yeah, so I hope she's listening. We'll find out. She can send us a lovely little message. And then once we finished there, we looked at a couple of the places that were on the map that was given to us at the the welcome center, because it was like the police station was actually the school or something like that, and like there were some exteriors that they used, and you could drive by all of those.
And they also have places on the map that like where they think Bella's house would have been, where they think Edward's house would have been. And they are actually really nice homes.
And something that we laughed at, because like if you look at where they lived on the outskirts of town, and the outskirts of Forks was literally like if you're on one end of this long street to the other end of this long street, so it was like less than half a mile. And we're like, of course, no wonder he could just get there in a second.
Yeah. Not only that, everyone said, the Cullens kind of lived like on the outside of town, which if you think of it as like a one street town where everything's kind of centralized, it is kind of weird that they were out there, because you're like, why would you want to be so far away from everyone when all there is forest around here? Like,
yeah, but that's so far away was like a mile. You know what I mean? It's still like a hop, skip, and a jump.
Yeah.
It was like a hop, skip, not even a jump, just a hop, skip.
But then after we left Forks, we went to my favorite place that we saw, First Beach.
La Push, baby. It's La Push. Which is possibly one of the most beautiful beaches I've ever seen. And along the way, there was those places we stopped that had the sign that was like vampires aren't allowed, and the other side had like the Twilight like painting on it. And then we took photos under the vampire like
threat level meter.
Yeah. So there's some fun things to do while you're on your way to First Beach, and I thought that was very, very cool. And some things that I've seen in comments were that the tribe had asked people not to come there. But before we went, we did look it up, because we knew there had been some back and forth and backlash from the books and fans coming. And they were very open. And everything that we saw said, please come, you're welcome. So I feel like we need to say that, because I know, Jordan, you were very much on looking that up.
Yes, yeah, I was very much about being respectful, and they very much enjoy people being there. They ask that you patronize their businesses, like they're very open to it. And my God, First Beach is just beautiful, you guys. Like, I grew up in Southern California. I grew up a mile away from the beach. My mom legitimately would just kick us out and be like, go to the beach, don't come home until the streetlights are on. So like, I've seen beaches before. Yeah. This was something else. Like, I've never seen anything this beautiful.
And there was like redwood, like remnants from like the logging that they do up there, like beautiful. It's like a rock beach, you know, it's not like deep sand that, it was like a hike a little bit, you know,
you have to walk through the redwoods to get to the shore.
Yeah, it was, but it was stunning. It was a whole different type of beach that us in SoCal are used to, you know.
Right. And I think people, because I had someone comment say, this is one of the ugliest places I've ever seen. Pretty beaches are like Hawaii and the Caribbean. And I'm like, those are beautiful as well, but it's completely different. Like, this isn't that blue water, sandy beach that you're going to go in every day and have a great time. This is a hangout beach. This is where you go and have bonfires, you cliff dive. When we saw those cliffs on the side, like on the edges, I was like, that's where they dove from.
Right?
That stuff is so high.
No wonder Edward thought she was dead.
Yeah. I'm like, and how rough the water was.
The water was so rough because it was really windy. And I don't know if that's year round, but when we were there, it was freezing because that wind was like 20 miles an hour. It was
We couldn't even skip rocks. It was absurd.
Yeah.
You were trying so hard, Jordan, and you're like, working against me.
I know. And I was like ready to be on my goblin because all the rocks were so pretty. And I was just like, I can't do it. It's too cold. I don't have gloves. I cannot touch anything. I touched a starfish. It was dead. There were many regrets. My hand smelled like tuna for hours.
It did. It was. He kept being like, does it smell? I'm like, yes.
Yes, it does still smell. Go in the shower.
I kept washing it. It was absolutely putrid. Don't touch starfish, even if they look like they're dried out. They're probably not.
Don't do it.
It's a sea creature that died.
But yeah, it was just stunning. And the way the sun was coming through the clouds and over the water and like the cliff sides, absolutely one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen beach wise.
I know.
Beaches don't just have to be sandy and blue, peeps.
If you're a man that I meet in the future and you listen to my podcast because you want to know me better and you're like, I want to propose to this girl, first beach. Somehow trick me into going back to first beach. I'll say yes, even if you're dumb.
Boom. You said you wanted to stay up and like at the whole rainforest. So
yeah.
That's
even if you're a little ugly, be like, I'm going to take you to the whole rainforest. And I'll be like, you're the man of my dreams. And I'll say yes.
You're the man of my dreams.
That's so
like
funny.
you're describing a Jacob, and that's
and we don't like that. We aren't Jacob people here.
We are not Team Jacob here. I shame people at work when they say they're Team Jacob.
Because people are Team Jacob, they are Team Taylor Lautner, and it is not the same thing.
Not the same thing. Yes, exactly.
We brought, because I got us gifts, and we got those little blue keychains so we could take like photos and things with the blue filter. But something we all noticed was that this area was very blue. Not necessarily that blue from the film, but because of the clouds and because of the rain and the way everything filtered through, it was this hue of a bluish gray for everything. And so while Catherine Hardwicke over-exaggerated it, it exists.
It does exist. And the other thing that people who have not been up there, I think, always call out in the movies is all the fog, especially when it's like surrounding James and some of the other people. I'm like, why is there fog? But if you're up there, literally the mountains are so high up that there are clouds passing through those trees.
Yeah, it's very cool. Like, as we drove through all of that, and I wish like we could have just popped up a GoPro on that car and just recorded the drive, because it was insane the way that the trees were frozen. You know, I've seen snow on trees, but not like icicle trees like we were seeing.
Mm-hmm. And it was like one side was like sparkly diamond icicles, and the other side was like wet, mossy green forest. Like, it was pretty crazy.
And we listened to Folklore and Evermore by Taylor Swift in the car, so I was like living out my cottagecore dreams. Okay, just so good.
It was so good. And then we came back after. Or is there anything else you guys want to touch on from Forks or First Beach?
It's a day trip. Like, don't think that you're going to be there forever. It's a day trip. It is worth it if you're twihards like we are. And if you're listening to this, then yes, you're a twihard. So do it. But it's a day trip.
Yeah, I have no regrets for not staying in Forks. I do not think it's the town that you have to stay the night over in. We decided to stay in Port Angeles just because the Airbnbs we were coming across were really expensive and like kind of real bare bones. And I don't know about our listeners, but I am a city girl and I need my hot water and my heater and my mattresses and my
amenities. You need amenities.
I need amenities.
I need amenities. I go camping, but I go glamping. I need amenities.
Exactly. I always say I'm a 2-day, 1-night camper because, like, I am not gonna go without a shower for more than like 48 hours, baby.
Yeah. There was one spot we were looking at that did not have heat, but it had like a log fire like thing. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not.
Who's chopping that wood? We're not doing that.
I'm not playing with wood. I'm not playing with fire and then get in trouble for burning down the Airbnb. I'm okay.
Exactly. And we even had to move our reservation at Bella Italia as well, because we had it for like 8 o'clock because we didn't know how late we'd be there. We didn't know how long it would take to do everything. And we had to move it back to like 5 because we were literally done by like 3:30 with everything. And we probably could have been done sooner, but we just like took our time. Also, you have the whole day. Take your time. You are not in a rush. It's not like going to Disneyland, you know, and you've got the one park and you gotta get it all in. This is literally like if you were to just go to Main Street.
Yeah.
It is literally visiting a plaza where there's a Target and like, you know, the Ulta and the TJ
and the Home Goods.
And the Home Goods. Think of that in your mind. I know that you girlies are out there and you're like, what is the ultimate day? And it's like Starbucks, Target, Ulta, Home Goods, TJ Maxx. It is one of those types of days where you only need a couple of hours and everything's right there and you're going to be done.
And then you're going to go home, take a nap, and then go out to dinner, which is exactly what we did. We went back to Port Angeles, took a nap at the hotel, and then went out to Bella Italia.
Which is great because, like, in my head, I was like, "Where do you think all this took place?" Because it's their date. It's when he like saves her from the creepy men, and they go and they serve the mushroom ravioli. It would have been such a misstep if they never did, but they absolutely do. And we all just ordered a bunch of food and sat in there and talked about our day and drank wine and shared all the goodness that we ordered.
They have a very good wine list for our listeners who are over the age of 21. So that's a bonus. Dinner was decent. Like it was not the best dinner I've ever had in my life, but I wasn't complaining or hungry after.
Exactly. I also wasn't expecting like a 5-star meal.
No.
I was expecting like small town Italian food, and that's what I got.
Yeah. My only complaint about the food, and I said this when we were there, is that you could add shrimp to several items, which we did. And you can tell that they just cook all the shrimp at once and like leave it in a warmer, and then they just dump it on top of whatever you add it to. So it doesn't really have the flavors of the dish. Yeah,
that's small town cooking though. Like,
I'm not gonna.
It is what it is. It was fine. I wasn't mad. I wasn't like, oh, this is inedible. I ate it, and I was good to go. And then we tried to go to Baskin Robbins, and that bitch was closed.
But we didn't hit the McDonald's drive-thru, and that their one McDonald's and the ice cream machine was working.
Correct.
Which never happens.
Correct.
You got to go to a small town to get a working ice cream machine. That's the hack.
Because I think like their only dessert was like tiramisu and like one other thing that we were not into. And that's just because that was our personal preference.
Yeah. Not because it was bad, just we didn't want it.
Yeah. And that happens all the time. I will literally do that at any restaurant and then be like, you want to hit the McDonald's?
Oh, yeah. We are dessert bitches when we're together.
Yeah.
I think because it was so cold, we were literally just like ice cream on the brain.
Yeah.
That's why we kind of ventured for ice cream.
Yeah. And then we went back to our room, showered, changed for bed, passed out, and then left the next morning. The end. That was like, it was the loveliest girls' trip. And I would do it again.
I would do it again.
Well, see, now I'm ready to see where the movie was filmed.
Oh, yeah. The next trip is Portland.
Portland is next, 100%. I want to stay in the Twilight house.
That's what I was going to say. You can stay at Bella's house, which is what we got to do.
I keep working on it every month on the first of the month. That's when they open up reservations for the following year. And I try every time. I'm going for April. We're trying for April 1st.
Fingers crossed, guys. Fingers crossed.
To do it, because I'll just book out the house and I have plenty of friends that I can fill it with. So I think it would be a blast for like a long weekend in Portland to see all the filming. We'll drive out to St. Helens. We'll drive all over because it wasn't just Portland. And we'll check out all the filming locations. Because if we did the inspiration, we've got to do where they filmed it.
because we are not just a book club. We're a movie club as well.
Mhm.
Exactly. Duh. That's why our next one, or I guess I'll get there in a minute. But is there anything else you guys want to talk about with our lovely little trip to Forks? Your face is
No, I think we got it.
I think we got it. I don't want to sell it too high.
no, like
I'm selling it on the reality, baby.
Yeah, we did it. It was a good
100%.
time.
I had a good time. I'm glad I did it. Like, I'm not upset that I did it by any means. I had expectations, and it's not that they were not met. They just weren't what I thought. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I was expecting, and it was over here.
Mhm.
Like, not that it was under. It was like, oh no, that's
over.
what this is. It was over. Yeah. Like, I was thinking one thing, and I got something completely different, and I was like, whoa. Look,
But
like,
also that accommodated perspective. And it made us see
100%.
everything in like such a different light, you know, see what Bella was coming to and from. And what a sacrificial lamb this little girl is, because I would have been like, Mama, no.
Absolutely not.
No wonder Renee wanted out of Forks, and I understand.
I don't blame her.
Don't blame her.
I don't blame her. And then also, Charlie makes so much more sense. Like, it adds an extra level to him completely. I'm like, oh, I get this, man. And also, I understand why the Cullens went there. It really is the place that is covered in rain and clouds 90% of the time.
The sun is not out. You can just hang out as a vampire.
Yeah, and hide your glittery skin.
Exactly. Also, you could get away with it in a small town like that. People are trying to mind their business there for the most part. So,
I mean, we getting on that level in LA. We have so much cloud coverage. And I feel like if a sparkly person walked down the street in LA, nobody would pay attention.
No one cares.
No,
it would be on next door right next to
body lights. That's what they think. You know,
they would think it's viral advertisement for some movie.
Yeah.
Or they feel like the kids are obsessed with body glitter again. Like, it'd be one of those types of moments for sure.
And like, this is an old reference, but the way that they describe them now and seeing that town, I'm like, it's like the Burbs. You know, like they're that weird family with the bodies in the back. Like, that's who the Cullens were in Forks. That's like, they rode around in all those cars. I was like,
but you know, you ain't gonna look a gift horse in the mouth.
No.
Like, if a little town like that is getting a full-on surgeon who's like willing to move his kids there and stay there, I'd be like, okay, well,
yeah,
it is what it is.
Exactly.
We appreciate it.
I love it. Well, I had a lovely time. So should we fill everybody in on what the podcast life is going to be?
Yes, give them a hint.
So if you're listening to this and you're listening to it on the What the Forks platform, make sure you migrate over to Smells Like Teen Angst. We are combining. This podcast will still be there. It'll still live in Forks. But if you want everything, head over to Smells Like Teen Angst on your podcast platform. Subscribe there, rate us there. And that's where we're going to be building everything. So we are going to keep it Smells Like Teen Angst podcast, and we're still keeping with the YA movie theme. And I got inspired because I saw that there's a couple of movies coming out that I feel like are right up our alley that were based on Wattpad books. And the first one is Perfect Addiction. So we are going to dive into this MMA love story of crazy, because I was in love with the trailer. And then I said, ladies, how do you feel? And they said, yes.
So in true What the Forks Smells Like Teen Angst fashion, we are reading the book and watching the movie and talking about it.
Honestly, I read quite a few like Wattpad turned into novel books over my Christmas vacation that I'm ready for this.
Yeah. Like, I love the after movies when I shouldn't, because they're so terrible. I made Kiki watch them because they're horribulous. They're just, I will love them forever, and it's fine. Not in the same way, because it's not this. It's not Twilight.
Nothing can ever be Twilight.
Nothing will ever be Twilight, but we can find some fun and interesting things. And I still think we need to dive into Bree Tanner eventually, because we never did that. And I feel like we can't close out this Twilight podcast without doing like that short life of Bree Tanner.
I mean, we're not closing it out because Homegirl's writing more books.
True story. True story.
We're just on pause.
And we will read those and talk about them with you as well. So thank you guys so much for listening and following along on our journey. If you want to keep up with us, make sure you subscribe to Smells Like Teen Angst on YouTube, on TikTok. Follow us on all socials at SLT Angst because our name is too long. We got to abbreviate. And you can keep up with all of us on our comings and goings. And Jordan, where can people find you if they want to stalk you personally?
You can find me on the internet at Lambertra. That is spelled LAMBERTRAA on all the socials. I just posted my very first personal TikTok because that's where I am in life. So go ahead and take a look.
I didn't even know. I'm going to go there now. Kiki.
Kiki, I mean, you can find me here. I'm always at Smells Like Teen Angst. I do have socials. I do not update them, but it's the life of Kiki Cross, all platforms. But again, no need to waste your time. You can find me here at Smells Like Teen Angst. Always.
Always. And until next time, everyone, fork off.
Fork off.
Yeah.